we go again. We are now into chapter three, and Forge of Darkness, book one of the Carcanis trilogy. We're doing a deep dive here into some of these themes and concepts in here. Chapter three. We start getting we get introduced to a little bit more of some of the concepts that Erikson's putting forth there, and some of the themes, and we get introduced to a few more characters, and just like a little bit of the lay of the land here. So this is a long chapter; it's about 40 pages, but I'll try to squeeze it all in here. All right, so. There's an introduction right away to Koya the Laugh, uh, and this character who is who believes that there are moments that she believes that she was unfurling her wings and she was a giant to her dolls, a goddess, and hers were the hands of creation, and this is all kind of metaphor for some of the things that go on in a child's imagination, and she puts forth that her dolls were her little hostages. And of course, the practice of hostage is a common practice amongst the different houses of the Teist, and so. Um, There's a little mention here. She gives a little bit about some geography here. There's the Aridine Hills to the north, and which I didn't recognize on the Corral that what's that place called again? Corral Galen map, and then I realized, oh wait, this is on the other map, the map of the Felakai Jaghut Teist realms in the beginning here. And there is a mention of the Thel Akai. Of course, we know that name from one of the Esselmont novels. Um, in one of the Esselmont novels, it was, well, I don't want to give that away, but there's a mention of them in there too. Uh, and she also sees the Jalakan Range and some contested territories, and so on and so forth. And so this keeps, and then, of course, the northernmost Jaghut to keep. So, yeah. And then she mentions this guy named Haut, or Haut, Haut. Not sure how you say it. Um, and right off the bat, we know that is a Jaghut name, and so that is something that she is with a Jaghut, and she she mentions, and so we find out that she is a hostage of this Jaghut, and how did that happen? All right, interesting. Uh, then the Jellic mentioned, and so she's never seen one of them, and so all these things are mentioned by her, and so uh, looks like she's a learned hostage. So that's interesting. All right, and so once again it is mentioned that goddesses ran out of games to play, gave up reaching down to adjust the posture of their insensate children. Sometimes the hostages just die of neglect, and power over corpses was no power at all. That is an interesting view of goddesshood, or um, and so you wonder what the gods in Malazan feel. Do they feel similar to that when it comes to dealing with mortals? And so she's watching these Jellic draw closer. We get a description of these guys. They're like swollen dogs with hides of black or mottled tan. Their long snouted faces only hinted at beneath their boiled leather headgear, like hounds of the hunt, but they were their own masters. Hmm. Are they really? All right. And she refers to them as soul taken. So we know that word because that word comes up a lot in the Milazim Book of the Fallen, and these Jalek seem to be of that type. Um, and so there's yeah, so that we're introduced to that situation, right? And um, then we get a little bit of information, a little bit of exposition about the Jaghut. They had once built an edifice to civilization unequaled anywhere in all the realms, only to then conclude that it was all some kind of mistake, a misapprehension of purpose, or as Hott described it, a belated recognition of economic suicide. Interesting. Um, and he said, "There's nothing so deadly as success." Very interesting perspective on civilization there. And he also, she also says that words were no gifts, said Hott. Okay, they were tangled nets snaring all who ventured into their midst, until an eerie people could hang helpless, choking on their own arguments, even as dissolution closed in on all sides. So you're getting the Jaghut view of civilization, and what like all the other races in this book are striving towards. The Jaghut refuse. So that's very interesting stuff. And so we move on here. We have let's see here. There is it's mentioned that some other Jaghut sometimes comes to visit him and pick up an obscure argument. Reluctant, pained exchange of words. Once again, so that that's interesting. So this Jellic that arises named Sagral, and Sagral refers to Hot as a captain. Don't know why. She doesn't know why, and neither does anybody else. It's not explained. Um, and you get a little piece of Jaghut humor in here, because the Sagral, the Jellic, is asking if what's her name? I forget her name. How about that? Um, if our goddess, yeah, Koya, is asking if she's mute because she doesn't answer the Jellic. She doesn't know what to say. And Hot replies, "Well, she's never said as much." So that's funny. I like Jagged humor. Funny stuff. All right. So carrying on here. Um, let's see here. It's mentioned that armies are anathema to Jaghut, and he threatens Sagral, this Jellic Sagral, because they're not being very good guests, and so Sagral says, "We'll come in our thousands," and then Hot, the Jaghut, says, "Before I was content with driving you off, killing just a few. Should you come now in your thousands, our restraint is at an end." So he's hinting at his level of power there. That was pretty cool. Uh, let's see. And He asked Koya um, if she considered herself a slave in front of these Jellic. And she said, "Of course not. I am Teist, born of the house Dalak. I am a hostage to the Jaghut, the only hostage to ever have to come to the Jaghut, and now the only one who will ever will." And then she claims that 2 years she'll be returned, and so on and so forth. Um, and the Jellic call the Jaghut fools and wasting their lives away. And she's wasting her life. And then she turns to Hot eventually and says, "Does this one need a leash?" So that's more Jaghut humor that she learned from her, um, you know, from her who she is a hostage to. A little later on in the conversation, um, the uh, the Vitir born soul taken I mentioned. Um, that's the VITR. So that C is mentioned. That's important later. Um, and also mentioned in here is a nice little saying: education is a long-term investment. Expect no fruit in the first season, expect none in the next, nor the one that follows. The reward is years away. Long-term investment, yeah. So that's some pretty solid wisdom there. Um, so there's a mention here that Korea Hot tells the dog runners, Rusk, uh, he tells him, "I have fashioned a Mybe." Now, of course, we know that term from Memories of Ice, right? And a vessel, protected, sealed, and as you say, empty. And he's referring to Koyer as the Mybe. And she later takes umbrage at that, and um, she says, I'm not empty." And he tells her, "In absence there is yearning. Do you not so yearn? And thus, if you yearn, you have something to fill." Kind of like that. All right. All right. So then we move on now to uh, the front of the House of Delac, which isn't that where Corey is from? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even put that to the. Yeah. Oh no, she's Delath. This is Delac. So the names are different. All right. So we move to this house. Lady Neris Drew Colat. These names. um, and she is the head of this house. She is the grandmother to this kid called Orphantal, who is a bastard. Um, and there's a mention of the poet Galan here, who's a kind of our overall historian narrator here. Um, the wounded will wound, and every hurt is remembered. And these lines came from his, um, his one of his poems. And so they we go through and get a little bit of what Orphantel does all day. He plays at swords, and all these things, and he pretends to defend somebody and die. Very heroic stuff that his worldview contains, and then the we find out about his parentage and stuff like that, and we find out that his mother is going to be leaving. His mother Neris, no, not Neris. Neris is the grandmother. I forget his mother's name, but she is going to be leaving to become a hostage at another house, and I think it's Sandalath is his mother, and I think it's for oh, let me think here. We'll see. We'll see where she's going. I think it's Draconis. Yeah. This captain named Ivis we introduced to. He's the one taking her, escorting her, and the boy hides when his mother leaves so that she doesn't have to see him and make it more heartbreaking stuff like that. Um, and the grandmother Neris is actually, she likes that. Um, she didn't want Sandalot seeing her son before she left. Um, And then there's something about let's see, comparing. Ah, yes, okay. So, uh, let's see here. This this person, Sandalath, had spent some time with the three warrior sons of Lord Namanda, uh, and Andamander, and Silchas, and Enderus' father. Um, and she always dreamed that she would one day marry Enderus. Um, but she truly worshipped Andamander, and so on and so forth. And so she had her own um, dreams about what her life was going to be. And then, of course, she got tied up in this kind of this loser guy who got her pregnant, and she had a bastard named Orphantil. Yeah. Uh, and so now she's going to be a hostage somewhere else, and hopefully, I think the grandmother's hoping that she'll have a better life, a better position. You know, it's all about position with these nobles and standing and stuff like that. Um, the All right, so she they're traveling along. This Captain Ivis is in charge of her, or in charge of making sure of her safety. Um, she gives him a scare because she ends up passing out because of heat. Let's see here. Good old mother. Ah, yes. Galdan. We're introduced to this guy. Galdan is the father of Orphantil. We're introduced to him for one part of it, and he is drunk, and I think the grandmother keeps him in drink so that he's useless. And then he says, "The hand that only took could hold nothing for very long." So that's all the wine disappears, you know. Uh, and I thought that was an interesting line there. Um, then we're introduced to this guy named Gala Barras, and so, like I said, a lot of introductions in this chapter, a lot of setup in this chapter, and he mentions the war against the Farukan, who believed themselves pure in their enmity towards disorder and chaos. And of course, we saw that in the Book of the Fallen as well. Um, and we also get introduced to the birth of the Hust Legion. And that's interesting because those are the guys who make these swords who moan and cry out. And they're jealous swords. And, um, some of these gifts that these guys got, the Hust Legion got, these swords that they got, turn out to be kind of curses. And all this is explained to us in like how the sword has a heart line, and it's terrible and cries. And, ugh, creepy swords. Um, but it's also mentioned that there have been changes to this house. Upon the blessing of Namanda for his service to Mother Dark, all land holdings have been relinquished to Mother Dark, and all those Tice born to the bloodline and their attendant staff, warriors, mendicants, and scholars now served her, taking the name of Andy, children of night. So right there we're seeing the beginnings of the separation of the Teist into different groupings because of Mother Doc's decisions. Very interesting. Yeah. And one of the things pondered upon by Galar and his commander was that peace had become a disaster, and also his bravery ended on the edge of a battlefield. And I kind of I jived with him on that one, because he was afraid of uh, saying his true feelings towards somebody, and that's more afraid of that than actually fighting on the battlefield. So some more stuff is mentioned, and this guy Galar, he's a he's a pretty solid dude. Um, and one of the things that he mentions the Farukan again, the ideal of justice and order. Um, Not that in their myopic bigotry they were even capable of recognizing the truth. Um, what was that? Oh, okay. That he was talking about Mother Dog. He was comparing her to the Farukan, even though, um, yeah. So because he's wondering about whether will be able to give up Dragoness as a consort in order to marry somebody to make it all legit or what have you. Um, so long as she remained there, there would be no disorder, no chaos, and that was immeasurable comfort. Should the marriage occur, should Urisander, from Urisander's legions, we met him in the earlier chapter, Mother Doc's rule as her husband, then the enmity would end, every schism healed, and no longer would the Huss Legion struggle in this seething atmosphere of malice and spite. Yeah, right. Do you really believe that, dude? So Galad's a little naive there, I think. Anyway, um, funny stuff. All right, and there's more. There's a line later on as we get back to the captain, and he's going through the woods, and he's saying there are as many stumps in this wood as living trees, and the one still standing looked unwell and leaves more dull gray than polished black. And I think that is a metaphor for the state of the Teist, that there's more stumps than living trees. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. All right, and um, finally, we get told that the whole reason that this guy is traveling and he's escorting a uh, uh, a scholar to go, he's escorting somebody who's carrying a message to the person who makes Hust blades, the master smith, and the message is from Lord Anamander, and the guy says, "Well, my master seeks to commission a sword," and that's how the chapter ends, chapter 3. And of course, we can all speculate. I mean, the big guess, of course, would be the sword from the Book of the Fallen. That's the big guess. We don't know that for sure. We don't know that 100% yet. But if you read the Book of the Fallen and you see that Anamandus wants somebody to make him a sword, uh, what are you gonna guess? All right, that's all we got for today. So thanks for sticking with me on this one. It's a long chapter, 40-page long chapter. So and and I appreciate it. If you would comment below if you're reading or keeping up, or have read this already. What other insights did you get out of chapter 3?